Welcome to This Explainer. Today we're diving deep into winning strategies for leaders, and we're going to look at what it actually takes to lead an organization to victory. And spoiler alert, it's all about dynamically adapting to your size and your environment.
So, our framework today? It comes straight from Ryuho Okawa's really compelling book, Winning Strategies for Leaders. Honestly, what I absolutely love about this source is just how pragmatic it is. It proudly lays out 13 specific weapons designed to get actual results in actual combat. You know, if you've ever found yourself wondering why some companies just thrive in a crisis while others completely fall apart, or why tactics that work flawlessly for a massive global corporation will absolutely destroy a plucky startup, well, you're in the right place. This isn't some theoretical ivory tower business philosophy. No, these are battle-tested tools meant to be deployed right in the trenches of the marketplace.
Okay, let's dive right into this. Chapter 10, Fighting According to Organizational Size and Environment. This right here is where the strategic rubber really meets the road. To bring this concept to life, the source uses this brilliant historical example, Oda Nobunaga's legendary victory at the Battle of Okehazama. I mean, picture this, right? Nobunaga's forces were vastly outnumbered, literally. If they had just lined up on a traditional battlefield and fought force against force, they would have been absolutely annihilated by Imagawa Yoshimoto's massive army. But Nobunaga, he didn't play by the rules of the strong. He knew his size disadvantage. So during this severe thunderstorm, he completely bypassed the enemy's main lines and launched a surprise, hyper-concentrated attack directly on the enemy commander's camp. Boom! He won a seemingly impossible victory. And look, this wasn't just luck. It was a perfectly executed shift in strategy.
Which brings us to our first major concept, the strategy of the week. Now, quick caveat here. In this context, weak absolutely does not mean bad or failing. It simply means smaller. You just have fewer resources than the dominant players in the market. So for these smaller organizations, the strategy is all about doing exactly what Nobunaga did at Okehazama. You've got to identify a highly specific niche and attack it with a laser-focused single-point concentration of force. Think about it. You cannot fight the giant everywhere at once. You just can't. You have to pick one battlefield, maybe it's one specific customer need, a localized geographic area, or even just one highly specialized product feature, and then you pour every single ounce of your energy into dominating that one single point.
So, how do we actually weaponize this for smaller companies? Well, first, identify your niche. Ask yourself, where is the giant ignoring the customer? Second, concentrate all your resources right on that single point. Third, and I cannot stress this enough, this is absolutely crucial, avoid spreading your forces too thin. A small business that tries to offer, say, 100 different services is just going to be mediocre at all of them, and honestly, they'll get crushed. Finally, act with speed and precision. Large organizations, they're often these slow, bureaucratic behemoths tied up in endless red tape. The weak win by striking before the giant even finishes scheduling their committee meeting. The core thesis we're really uncovering here is kind of unforgiving. It says, to remain a value-creating innovator, strategy must match organizational size. Seriously, if you take away only one single thing from this explainer today, let it be this. There is absolutely no one-size-fits-all approach to business. Zero. A startup cannot pretend to be a Fortune 500 company, and a Fortune 500 company cannot operate like a lean startup without creating massive internal chaos. True innovation happens when a leader accepts their current reality and arms their team with the appropriate strategic weapons for their specific weight class. But hey, what happens when you eventually win those niche battles and you start to grow? Well, the rules change entirely. Now you must adopt the strategy of the strong, and this is literally the exact opposite of the strategy of the weak. Instead of finding a tiny niche, the strong use their overwhelming scale, their massive capital, and broad resources to envelop the entire market. We're talking comprehensive solutions, dominating distribution channels, and essentially surrounding the competition. If a massive corporation tries to act small, they leave their flanks wide open for competitors. They have to use their weight to occupy the entire battlefield.
Now, what's really interesting about this is the stark contrast between these weapons. The strategy of the weak relies on that narrow, single-point focus, right? It's a scalpel. The strategy of the strong relies on broad market capture. It's a massive net. The fatal flaw for leaders is misidentifying which camp they're actually in. Because if a small company tries to cast a massive net, it tears. And if a giant company tries to use a scalpel, they miss the broader opportunity and just let smaller rivals gain a foothold. You really have to know your size and pick your weapon accordingly.
Okay, so we've covered adapting to internal organizational size, but Chapter 10 demands that leaders adapt to something else too, the external environment, specifically the macroeconomic weather.
Because strategy isn't just about how big you are inside the building, it's about what's happening in the world outside your office walls. Even the most perfectly sized strategy is going to fail if you deploy it in the wrong economic climate. I mean, you wouldn't sail a ship the exact same way in a calm breeze as you would in a Category 5 hurricane, right? The exact same logic applies to leading a business.
So the market generally operates in two major cycles: recessions, or busts, and periods of growth, or booms. And the source outlines a very clear behavioral mandate for leaders in each of these phases. During a recession, your primary strategic action is internal. You must focus on strengthening internal systems and structures. Conversely, during a boom, the strategy flips outward and forward. It's time to invest in the future and fund next-phase innovations. Let's unpack exactly how to execute both of these.
When the economic weather turns really harsh and a recession hits, man, that is not the time for reckless expansion. The steps here are vital. Step 1, acknowledge the downturn. Don't live in denial. Step 2, turn your gaze inward and audit your internal processes. Where's the waste? Where are those little inefficiencies that were hidden by all the easy money during the boom times? And then step 3 is to reinforce that internal organizational structure. Think of it like a brutal winter storm. You don't go outside and build a new patio. You stay inside, you fix the roof, reinforce the walls, and train your staff. You're building an unbreakable foundation so that when the weather finally clears, you are leaner and so much stronger than your competitors who just panicked.
And this brilliantly illustrates something else too. It is incredibly tempting to look at a booming economy, see the profits rolling in, string up a hammock, and think, we made it, time to relax. But according to this framework, boom times are absolutely not for resting. Actually, a strong economy is arguably the most dangerous time for complacency. When business is highly favorable, that is exactly when you have the luxury, the capital, and the momentum to take calculated risks for tomorrow.
So what should you actually be doing when times are good? Well, you must actively fight complacency. It's an urgent mandate. You need to take that surplus capital generated by the boom and aggressively allocate it to research and development. This is the exact moment you invest in those next-generation innovations that are going to keep you ahead of the curve. Why? Because you are preparing for the inevitable next market cycle. The winter will return, for sure. The companies that survive the next recession are the ones that use the boom to build new technologies and secure new advantages. Basically, you gotta fix the roof while the sun is shining.
Which brings us to the final, absolutely critical question you have to ask yourself today. Is your organization fighting the right battle for its current size and environment? Think about it. Are you a small startup dangerously trying to envelop the whole market? Are you a giant that's somehow forgotten how to leverage its strength? Are you acting like it's a boom when the market is clearly cooled? Or maybe resting on your laurels when you should be funding the future? True strategic mastery, as we've seen from these concepts today, is all about brutal honesty regarding where you stand right now and having the agility to choose the exact right weapon for the fight at hand. So take a hard look at your playbook and ensure you're fighting the battle you can actually win.